Hi. I was thinking today that I would chat about us a bit more and my understanding of how we tick, because it's a very important subject. It's important to awareness because from what I've come to understand, how we tick and our lack of awareness about that, our lack of daily awareness about that, has become a vast blind spot. And it's through our blind spots that the unseen world, the hidden world, the world and the beings in it that operate and can only operate secretly because they are unseen, because of that lack of awareness. It's that needs to come, that awareness needs to come to the fore now. Yeah. Because for many, 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 many years, well, probably forever, as far as the unseen world has gone, but certainly human beings themselves, because I'm talking on lots of different levels now, suddenly, all at once, there are those that do know how we tick. They have been experimenting with how we tick and what works to enslave us deeper and deeper psychologically into a matrix world that is and does perpetuate the enslavement of masses. Because one has to consider how the few are actually going to control the many. How does one do it? You know, when you're just a minority, but you're an elite minority, or you're a minority that have been voted into power, how do you maintain and control billions, hundreds of thousands in countries, and millions, but billions throughout the entire world? How do you control them? How do you control a being that is more than it has been led to believe that it is? So much more. How do you stop that being from realizing what it is, who it is? Because we're very intelligent, we are very, very clever. We work stuff out if we have the chance to do so. If we have the time to contemplate, to question. And of course, one of the methods is you don't give people time. You keep them firefighting their lives from one drama to another, or entertained, or, I mean, there's various methods. You also educate them to, from a very early age, a very programmable age, so that they buy into, become part of, and conform to the world that you desire them to see. And there's so many theys, we'll just refer to they, because there's they at every level. There's the they at this third dimensional level, which is, things like secret governments, and governments colluding, but levels and levels even within that. Hierarchies, levels of secrecy that some have access to and others don't, and it depends where you are in the game as to what you know and how much you know. So there have been various methods employed very, very successfully, clearly, to prevent people from having time and to keep a trauma foundation going, whether it's, trauma out there or actually trauma in your own personal life. So briefly, there's that element, and then there's the deeper, what I think of as the deeper, because that's just what I've just talked about is like the sort of general programming, and it's convoluted and many layered and comes at us from all directions, from all paradigms. So focus my thoughts. So the deeper level is the psychological level, because that is where they get the individual to do it themselves. It's a difficult subject to bring into a concise kind of conversation, and bear with me, and I hopefully will be able to make sense of this all, at least at some levels. Obviously it's going to be impossible to capture it all in one conversation, but just as I'm thinking at the moment out loud. At the psychological level, we operate in a certain way. We have a conscious mind and a subconscious mind. Some would say superconscious and all of that. So there are levels to our consciousness. And I feel that they have figured out that our conscious mind and our subconscious mind don't really talk to each other. They're not really in touch, and by these various and many methods, and through lack of time to consider these things, we don't get in touch because we're kept too busy. It's the hamster wheel. But the subconscious mind is very, very programmable. It's like a hard drive. And so all the messages from the world that we receive about ourselves, from the word dot, from when we're little to as we grow, and through education and work and jobs and all the systems of the world, religion, politics, health, education, military, wars. That is an entirely other subject. And probably many that I haven't mentioned. We're kept so busy in our minds and our world and our lives that we're not aware of how that is used. I liken it that many years ago it was discovered how we tick, or our secret elite or secret powers in the world, the powers that be, or the powers that were, in fact, discovered how we worked, and then and through that found a means to control the masses. We have a need to have a sense of identity, a sense of uniqueness. And a lot of Freud's work, I think, was used to or was employed to roll out a program of getting people to identify with certain things. It might be as simple as the latest kind of washing machine, or the latest gadget, the technology, or the certain kind of car, certain kind of clothes, certain kind of house, certain kind of family, certain kind of social life, certain kind of religious beliefs, certain kind of lifestyle. And there's something for everyone, of course, a recipe for every mindset. So it could be, basically it comes down to our daily lives, our daily identification of ourselves with our roles, with who we feel we are in this world, how we fit. We have many roles, but when you meet someone, they say, well, what do you do? And you say, oh, I'm a banker, or I'm a waitress, or I'm a something. Doesn't matter what, but you say, I am this. But of course, you're not. That is the false identification with the roles and the false identity in the Matrix. Because when you peel all that away and you ladder it down to the basics, you let all those roles go. You realise they're actually pretty meaningless in one sense, in the deeper sense. So, back to where I was, focus my mind. They discovered how we tick and decided not to share that information with us, which was kind of interesting. Obviously, because they needed to control us. It's so clever. This whole thing is so brilliantly clever. And what comes into my awareness now is that idea that, as above, so below, as within, so without. And there was a very interesting film in the last recent years, The Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus by Terry Gilliam and another guy, David somebody or other. I do apologise, I've forgotten that name. And that's a very interesting film. It's so symbolic. There is so much symbolism in that film. But the bit I'll focus on now is that idea that what is within us we place outside of ourselves so that we can see it and then integrate it in, because it's all about integration. But if you can keep people from realising that it's all about, bringing it back in, if you can keep people from understanding the mechanism of projection and how we operate, then you can stop that, and you can halt and hold up and stop that integration process and the raising of consciousness, the unification of one being through the integration of its light, its shadow. What we've come here to do, the meaning and the purpose of this life, is to come here, be it, and do the inner work. That's the way. We come here, we reincarnate, we walk the walk, we do the work, we do the inner journey as well as the physical journey, and that's the way it kind of goes. It takes a long time because there's an awful lot of messing with us, as I'm just describing. And a lot of that, as above so below, manifests because the unseen world also project onto us. They project onto us what they want us to know about us, what they want us to feel about ourselves, how our societies are ordered, working with shadow governments, military, all of that. There's fingers in every pie. Factionalizing groups, and because there's individual identity, but there's also group identity. It's all very complex, but I'm not making very good sense of it here, I feel, anyway. I hope it makes some kind of sense for you. I hope so. So it's quite key to understand how you work, how we work. A lot of our, fear of death, for instance. Now, if you really consider it and think about it, fear of death doesn't really make a lot of sense, in a way, because it feels to me like a conditioning. Because just by the very fact that we're here, the very fact that we're born, the moment we're born, it is inevitable that at some point we'll die. Inevitable because of the lifespan of the human being in this reality. It's very short, comparatively speaking. And I was thinking about it the other day. I was sort of contemplating it. Because in the unseen world, in the other dimensions, presumably the gods and other ascended masters and all those beings seem to pride themselves that they have a long lifespan. Compared to us, it's huge. I was thinking as above, so below, and projection. And it suddenly occurred to me that actually our fear of death is a projection onto us of their fear of death. They place into us their own fears. Exacerbating and augmenting our ego surviving vulnerabilities. And also that fear of loss, that sense of losing those that we love. And so death has been considered to be this thing that must be avoided at all costs. The health system seems to think that life at all costs is more important than quality of life and all of that kind of thing. And those things are understandable. They're understandable. But I was considering it and just questioning it. Because I've had fear broadcast at me, and its sudden and incredibly powerful impact on the adrenaline in my body, the physical body itself. It's like a sudden punch, and then it's this overriding feeling, isn't it, of fear. And I realised in the moment that I was experiencing it, where did this come from? Hang on a minute. I was actually feeling okay. I was feeling good. I've had a good day. I'm settling down to sleep. And then suddenly, bang, there is this raging fear throughout my body, throughout my feelings, my emotional body, my mental, the whole thing. I just had just like incredible fear. But even within that, in that moment, it was my experience and my awareness to say, hang on, where does this come from? This is not mine. This is not mine. This is someone else's, and it is their fear. I realised it is their fear. And the instant that I did that, the fear left me, which was confirmation. It's like, oh, because I saw the unseen. I questioned it, I looked at it, I named it. And then it could no longer operate. It's like, I sloughed it off. So think about that. That's actually really key, because a lot of our emotional states, our fear of terror, our fear of loss, our fear of death, our fear of change, all those resistances in us, those grievings in us, such powerful and difficult, stressful emotional states. And again, they serve to keep one in a very low vibrational frequency. And because we haven't recognised the unseen world, because we have been programmed to consider it to be fantasy, or it's just in films, it's not real, it creates an enormous blind spot, and it's through the blind spots that the unseen world can operate. That is a key piece of information, because it's like life is a hall. The image I get is that like life is a hall of mirrors, and you imagine yourself wandering through this hall of mirrors, and you see all the reflections of yourself and the mirroring. And because of a lack of awareness, you just think, whoa, that makes me look odd, or that's a bit weird, or I don't like that, or I don't like that, I don't like that person, I don't like this situation isn't good, why is this all happening to me, all that kind of... And we're just walking through this sort of sea of confusion and projection. We continue to project because we don't realise that actually, okay, this is me projecting something, I'm having issues here, and so everything is symbolic, everything is reflection. What is it telling me? What is this showing me about me? Because we haven't been asking those questions, we're just walking through it in an unconscious way. And between these mirrors, like gossamer veils, sort of just outside of our awareness, this is how I'm sort of imagining it. The interdimensional beings, the fishermen, if you like, cast their nets, bait their hooks, and through the mind, because that's how they operate, through our mind, perpetuate those ideas in us, turn the volume up on, or the ampage up on certain emotional states. They can create division and separation between individuals who are perhaps trying to work through some stuff, keep it alive, and for many reasons, because it serves many purposes. That's the saying, you know, many birds with one stone. We're the birds in that little analogy, or that little metaphor. So, because it's unseen, we don't recognise it, we don't know it's going on, we don't know that something is being brought to bear upon our lives that is turning up the volume on the stuff, that's keeping the projections alive, and the lack of awareness that actually that is something that's symbolic and important to me doing what I came here to do. It's very, 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 very clever. Very clever. And because the ego can be quite defended, and we don't, and vulnerable, and perhaps afraid, living in a post-traumatic stress environment of anxiety, depression, unresolved anger and rage, lots of things in us that we hold in our nervous system, and you know, from the moment we wake up to the moment we go to sleep, we've got this inner dialogue going on, you know, because the mind is it's like a record, and it has already laid down from our earliest years right up to now. It has this record playing, and it's got certain grooves that it likes to bed into in the inner dialogue, and they go round automatically. You know, it's like the breathing. We just breathe automatically, but we can also bring our breathing and have a conscious relationship with the breath. We can use the breath to become meditative or still, relaxed. Okay. So we can interact, we can harness, we can bring our breathing to a real gentle, still point. And that has the effect of slowing us down and coming out of all that stress. And the mind is the same, in a sense, because it would just go round and round and round and round and round all day, all by itself, doing that lovely automatic, self-destructive, perpetuating these programs round and round and round and round and round in our heads all day. And depending on the individual and the journey, those things are unique to that person. But we all do it, so it's common to all of us. You know, we meet someone, we have an idea about them, we project onto them, or they're like my Auntie Doris, I don't think I like them. because you didn't like Auntie Doris. And it's completely unreasonable. It's also completely false, because that person is not Auntie Doris. But we have ideas about them, and then because there's an idea, there's an emotional attachment to that idea. So you have the idea, the emotion gets attached to it, and before you know it, you're in stuff. And our minds are kept busy with all of that endlessly. Endlessly. And that works on every level of our being. That it's almost as if there's like a predator within the mind. The reptilian brain, the bird brain, you know, they say we've got these things, you know, reptilian brain at the back there, that always has that fear of discovery. You know, what if people knew who I really was? They wouldn't like me. You know, any moment now I'm going to get discovered for the fraud that I am, because I've got this job, but I blagged my way in and I don't really know what I'm doing, but somehow I'm, you know, fooling everybody and all that kind of stuff, and blah, 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 and natter. It's all that kind of stuff. And it plays into the ego vulnerability of needing to get by, to survive, to adapt. It's such a complex, brilliant and amazing thing, the mind, but we are not necessarily in charge of it. It just runs along. And it's all part of that they knowing about us and how we tick, not sharing that information with us, but using it to present a world and an idea of ourselves whereby we buy into all of that through ego identification, because we need to. That's what we are, you know. That's how we operate at this level, at this sort of asleep automatic function. You know, we're like zombies. We are the Walking Dead. Or we have been. I like to think that I'm not now, but you know, awareness is still growing. It's and there's so many layers to it. That's why they talk about the layers of the onion. You know, reaching the core. The veils of illusion, because there's many veils. There's not just one veil and that's it. It's not just one illusion and that's it. It's multi-layered and disseminates out in all directions, and it's incredibly clever. Okay, I think that's actually long enough on the video, and I could go on and on and on. I hope you get a sense of the way my mind is questioning these things, the way I am beginning to question them from my own journey and my own sort of hang on a minute, let's really look at that. Is it really what it looks like? Is how it's presenting itself really what it is? What are the effects of all of that? Hang on a minute. And good luck, because it's a fascinating and amazing setup. The game is so the game of life. This whole game, multi-dimensional game, that we are both the pawns of and the prize, and the warriors and the adventurers. We are the avatar in the game. You know, all those analogies could be used, but we're it. We're the focus of all of that attention. We're the focus of all the suppression and control and manipulation, both unseen and seen. But even the seen is kind of masked and cloaked in the garment of politics or religion or military industrial complex or education or history or fashion or football or ballet or science. And there's so much of it, it's hardly a wonder that we are so easily diverted from that time to say, let's have a really good look. See ya.